Another day God has blessed us with. Sun has been shining, the rain is falling, and we're going to have a good time today. We have not done a show on Africa in quite some time, and we like to lift up Mother Africa because that is the source of all mankind, including African Americans. And so today we're going to be dealing with Africa. Now, you know, a lot of people see Africa as the poorest continent in the world. There are people who are in poverty that live in the motherland. That's absolutely true. But some of the countries in Africa are some of the richest countries on the planet Earth. And we're going to take a look at Africa's rising economy. We're going to look at the rising economy of Mother Africa. There's over 1.3 billion people that live on the continent of Africa. There's over 54 nations. Some people think Africa is one big country of poor folks. Ain't so. Say it ain't so, Joe. It ain't so. Africa has 54 nations, and we're going to take a look at those nations, and we're going to look at the economy of those nations. Now, I've seen and met and have a number of friends that were born in the motherland. That's what I refer to Africa as. And let me tell you, the vast majority of the sisters and brothers that I know that live here, and some of those who have even gotten dual citizenship, plan at some point in their lives and in their dreams to return to the motherland. Why is that? I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to present a show that should give you some answers. And it may even twerk your imagination. You may be interested in going over and seeing what's happening in the motherland. There are even some countries, like Ghana, for instance, that have repatriation programs. Repatriation, that means those of us whose ancestors are from the motherland have the opportunity of returning with some help from those countries and those nations. I want to first of all start off, and you know, one of the things that I try to do is to read my poetry from time to time and to deliver a message. To the motherland, where civilization was born, with your tall mountains that kiss the blue skies overhead. The green belt stretches thousands of miles, millions of animals, birds, plants call you home. Deserts that weave their way wantonly from ocean to ocean. As the spirit of our ancestors call for their children to return to the motherland, the world's second largest continent. They attack you, stole your riches, rape your women, enslave your people. Yet in spite of man's sins against himself, you still exist as glorious and as beautiful as ever. I love you, Africa, mother of civilization. Although I'm a child of a lost generation sold into slavery, my heart and soul will never leave you. You are the source of all that is good and pure. You are the motherland. When God said, let us make man, he created him in Africa, out of the rich soil and rolling rivers, out of the mountains and plush green valleys. Africa gave birth to civilization. Africa, mother of civilization. Mother of civilization. All mankind started in Africa. And that has been proven now over and over again. So the world scientists, anthropologists, what have you, archaeologists, all agree that the first individuals known to man were born or their existence came into being on the continent of Africa. And Africa is not all the same. People like to put us all in the same basket. They all like to think that, first of all, we're all poor. we don't have anything. We never had anything. That we're ignorant, and we think all kinds of negative things about the motherland, which is all not true. I was looking at a presentation by Ellen Johnson. Ellen Johnson is the current president of the country of Liberia, and she was giving a commencement address at Harvard University, of which she is a graduate of Harvard. And she's working on her master's degrees as we speak. She gave a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful speech. You see, Liberia, if you know anything about the history of Africa, back during the days of Abraham Lincoln, we colonized Liberia, and over 13,000 former slaves were returned to Africa by Lincoln. That was a part of his emancipation program, to the country of Liberia. Some of them also went to the country of Sierra Leone. So that's what that's all about. And she was making a wonderful, wonderful speech because she attended Harvard. She graduated from Harvard. She's a brilliant woman. She's been able to turn around Liberia, and Liberia's economy, like others, is on the rise. Even though poverty exists, people like to give you the impression that the evangelical churches and the missions are the ones doing all the work for poor folks in Africa. Well, they're doing a job. But the whole thing was that they would give us the Bible and they take the land. Unfortunately, some of these religious organizations have support colonialism, and they think they're doing us a favor by taking our land, and taking our diamonds, and taking our gold, and using it for their own well-being. You're not doing us any favor at all by robbing us of our existence. Yeah, that's true. But now we're gonna take a look. We're gonna look at who are the 10 largest economy in the continent of Africa.
Hello explorers, welcome back to another exciting video and thanks for watching. In this video, we shall be presenting to you top 10 African countries with the largest economies. The African continent is rich in natural resources. Some of its 54 countries boast of resources like diamond, sugar, gold, uranium, silver, oil and petroleum. Oil, being an invaluable commodity, its production puts countries like Nigeria and Egypt at the top in terms of gross domestic product, GDP. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the market value of all final goods and services from a nation in a given year. Countries in Africa are sorted according to data from the International Monetary Fund. The figures presented here do not take into account differences in the cost of living in different countries, and the results can vary greatly from one year to another based on fluctuations in the exchange rate of the country's currency. Such fluctuations may change a country's ranking from one year to the next, even though they often make little or no difference to the standard of living of its population. Africa is also home to fertile grounds, capable of growing a wide array of agricultural produce, bringing about plenty of opportunities for trade. Despite social, political, and other issues some of its countries have had to deal with, Africa continues to make a name for itself as a land rich with opportunity. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. We shall be focusing on the nominal GDP, and with that said, here are the top 10 countries with the largest economies in Africa. Number 10. Tanzania. GDP, $61 billion. Officially known as the Republic of Tanzania, Tanzania is a country located in the eastern part of Africa. It has a surface area of about 947,303 kilometers square and a population of about 53.3 million people. According to the International Monetary Fund, Tanzania's GDP currently stands at $61 billion. Half of the country's workforce find employment in the agricultural sector, while the rest are divided between mining, manufacturing, food processing and telecommunications. The heavy reliance on agriculture makes Tanzania vulnerable to environmental shock and commodity prices. Some of its main exports are minerals like gold and diamonds, coffee, cotton, tea and tobacco. Tanzania's tourism is also on the up. Approximately 38% of land area is set aside in protection areas for conservation, but are used as game reserves and national parks. The country is also home to Mount Kilimanjaro, attracting the attention of international tourists who want to visit the sleeping giant. 17.5% of 2016's GDP came from tourism and is anticipated to keep increasing. Number 9. Ghana. GDP $68 billion. Ghana is an average natural resource-enriched country possessing industrial minerals, hydrocarbons, and precious metals. It is an emerging designated digital economy with mixed economy hybridization and an emerging market with 8.7% GDP growth in 2012. Ghana's economy also has a tie to Chinese yen renminbi along with Ghana's vast gold reserves. In 2013, the Bank of Ghana began circulating the renminbi throughout Ghanaian state-owned banks and to the Ghanaian public as hard currency, along with the national Ghana cedis for second national trade currency. It has an economic plan target known as the Ghana Vision 2020. This plan envisions Ghana as the first African country to become a developed country between 2020 and 2029. And a newly industrialized country between 2030 and 2039. Number 8. Ethiopia. GDP $90.9 billion. With a GDP of $90.9 billion, Ethiopia has one of the fast-growing economies in the world and has the second largest population in Africa. According to the International Monetary Fund World Economic Outlook, growth for 2018 is predicted at around 8.5%. The country's accelerated economic growth is driven largely by industrial activities, seeing investments in infrastructures like the Grand Renaissance Dam and a light rail system, as well as manufacturing. Some of Ethiopia's major exports include coffee, leather, textile, natural gum, spices, and mineral products. Agriculture is perhaps the country's largest industry, seeing as the banking, telecommunications, and transportation sector are dominated by state-owned companies. Ethiopia's economy currently ranks as the 8th largest economy in Africa. Number 7. Kenya. GDP $99.2 billion. Kenya is one of the most beautiful countries in Africa. It has a population of about 52.5 million people and a surface area of about 580,367 kilometers square. Kenya has a GDP of $99.2 billion. Trade is a crucial part of the country's growth. According to www.heritage.org, the combined value of exports and imports equals 38% of GDP. The industrial sector dominates Kenya's economy. The country's main industries are agriculture, manufacturing, and services industries. With a rich agricultural sector, Kenya produces tea, coffee, sisal, pyrethrum, corn, and wheat are grown in the fertile highlands. Livestock predominates to the north and east. Tourism also plays a big role in Kenya's service industry, despite taking a downturn due to security issues and negative publicity. Number 6. Morocco. GDP $122.4 billion. Morocco's economy is considered a literally liberal economy governed by the law of supply and demand. Since 1993, the country has followed a policy of privatization of certain economic sectors, which used to be in the hands of the government. The services sector in Morocco accounts for just over half of the GDP, and industry a quarter, made up of mining, primarily phosphate rock mining, construction and manufacturing. Tourism, telecoms, and textile sector recorded the highest growth. Important exports including phosphates are electric components, inorganic chemicals, transistors, citrus fruits, vegetables, and fish. At $122.4 billion, Morocco is the 6th largest economy in Africa. Number 5. Angola. GDP $124.6 billion. Angola is still plagued by the 27-year-long civil war that began immediately after becoming independent from Portugal in 1975, before finally coming to the end in 2002. But the country's economy picked up considerably in the years following the war and is today considered one of the fastest growing in the world, despite recent struggle with the global oil market. In 2017, it had a GDP of $124.2 billion, but the sharp decline in global oil prices has caused GDP growth to drop to 1.5% from 10.3% pre-2014. The government intervened by cutting expenditures, increasing non-oil revenues, and devaluing the kwanza. Angola exports crude oil, petroleum products, diamonds, fish products, coffee, sisal, cotton, and lumber, and its biggest industry are oil, diamonds, agriculture, and fishing. As of 2019, Angola's GDP stands at 124.6 billion, making the country the fifth largest economy in Africa. Number 4. Algeria. GDP $180 billion. Algeria has a nominal GDP of 178.2 billion in 2017, but the country's economic growth slowed down in the same year due to a slight decline in hydrocarbon production. Petroleum and natural gases are the country's most important mineral resources, with the biggest exports being either mined or manufactured, while agriculture plays a comparatively minor role. However, examples of some of Algeria's principal farm crops that are exported are wheat, oat, citrus fruits, olives, and dates. With a population of about 42.2 million people, Algeria currently has a GDP of $180 billion, making it the fourth largest economy in Africa. Number 3. Egypt. GDP $300 billion. Egypt, a northern African country, has a long rich trade history with plenty of ups and downs. After the 2011 revolution, foreign exchange reserve fell considerably. Reserves fell from $36 billion in December 2010 to only $16.3 billion in January 2012. The revolution also negatively impacted the country's economic growth, urging the government towards economic reform that will focus on sustainable growth. The GDP in 2017 was $237.1 billion. Some of the country's main exports include petroleum, insulated wire, video displays, and gold. The biggest non-petroleum-based industries are tourism, textile production, food processing. As of 2019, Egypt has the third largest economy in Africa and the 40th in the world, with a GDP of $300 billion. Number 2. South Africa. GDP $371.2 billion. South Africa currently has the second largest economy in Africa and the 33rd in the world, with a GDP of $371.2 billion. Statistics were higher than expected for 2017, seeing as the country's economy grew by 1.3%, just higher than the National Treasury's expectation of 1.0%. The highest performing industry to contribute to this growth was agriculture, followed by mining and manufacturing. A demand of manganese ore, chrome, iron ore, and anything used in the production of steel helped spur on this growth. Some of the country's key exports include corn, diamonds, and fruits. Considering that South Africa is the world's second largest producer of gold, it should come as no surprise that this precious metal is also one of the country's main exports. Number 1. Nigeria. GDP $447 billion. Nigeria, located in the western part of Africa, is a country with a surface area of 923,768 kilometers square. With a GDP of 447 billion, Nigeria has the highest GDP in Africa on top of having the largest population. With the current population of over 200 million based on the latest United Nations estimates, Nigeria is a powerhouse of economy and development compared to its neighbors. With an abundance of natural resources, some of the country's biggest exports include oil, cocoa, and rubber. In fact, Nigeria is Africa's largest crude oil supplier. Not to mention the rich agricultural sector that is responsible for 18% of the country's GDP and almost a third of employment. Ranking first in Africa in terms of farm output, Nigeria's main agricultural exports are cocoa, peanuts, rubber, and palm oil. There you have it, explorers. Those were the top 10 African countries with largest economies. Thanks for watching this video.
I guess that will give you an idea of what Africa is like. Didn't know that, did you? Some people had the illusion that Egypt was not a part of Africa, that was somehow a part of Europe. I've had a number of Caucasian people who said, oh, Egypt has been Europe. This couldn't be with the ancient history that it has and economy that it has, be a part of Africa. Well, it is. North Africa always has been and always will be African. Some of those countries were North African, some West, some East, but I give you an idea. But the thing that you should look at also is just the beauty of some of these countries, some of the tall ancestors, the tall buildings, the architectural buildings that exist in Africa. And Africa is a place of the future. Like I said, many of the people that I know, and there are millions of Africans that are currently living and studying in our institutions here in this country, plan to go back, and they're building homes in Africa. And there are countries that have repatriation programs in which they're trying to encourage African Americans to go back. One thing I have not done, I have not visited the continent of Africa. I started studying African history at the age of 14 and been studying it and teaching it ever since. And that is a real joy that I look forward to in my life, is to go back, go to our motherland, the continent of Africa. I have another little poem here that I want to share with you. It's called African Queen, because the next video that I have, I will present an African queen, African by the name of Wangari Maathai Wangari. If I'm mispronouncing the name, just forgive me. I'm not acquainted with the language Wangari. This is a very dynamic woman, but who was involved in trying to restore the economy of African people, and she's doing a lot of great things. But let me just, and I like to lift up African American queens, African American women. We got a holiday coming up, folks. Call it Mother's Day. That's coming pretty soon, and I can't think of a more important holiday for us to celebrate than Mother's Day. And toward that end, I'm going to read this brief poem. It's called African Queen. She stood tall and saintly, her copper brown skin as smooth as lamb's milk, her teeth the color of ivory. They call her the Queen of Sheba. She strode across the mountains, planted seeds that created the forests of Ethiopia. She washed her hair in the Red Sea and used the clouds as her pillow. She took a caravan of men and animals stretching for miles along the mountain trails to Israel. She sat tall on a beast of burden, which carried this African queen to her destination. She possessed wealth untold. Her beauty was so profound, it seemed unnatural. Her mission was to see the wisest of all wise men, the son of David, Solomon, king of Israel. Yet she did not fall into his shadow. She was no less than he. That was a poem dedicated to the Queen of Sheba, one of the most noted African queens, an Ethiopian queen, a Black woman who was one of the richest matriarchs in our history. But I want to say this before we show this video. I'm going to say God bless all of our sisters, all of our mothers. There are some mothers who don't have any children. You know, as they say, it takes a village to raise a child. A lot of women are mothers and treat our children very well, but yet never get any credit for it. My mother passed away about 11 years ago and miss her very much. But I thank God for the time that I spent with her and the things that she did for me and the things that she taught me when I was coming up. Okay, we're gonna roll our next video. And this young lady, Wangari Maathai.
In the first round of beatings, Wangari got very severely injured. It's like they had targeted her. So she got hit on the head, she got hit on her back, everywhere.
You'd look at her at home and wonder, is this the same person? Because she's so gentle and calm, like a dove at home. And then she gets out there and the passion for whatever issue it is of the day that she's concerned about, she really fights hard.
Wangari had the best smile, and she maintained it to the last minute.
Just bring them here, they see nature. Yeah, this is nature, and you see natural things. Yeah. This part is very deep. But there are times when school children do come, they are very creative. Even Prince Edward from England came here, and we took photos with him here. Do you enjoy the forest?
John Chege is chief guide at Karura Forest, 2,500 acres of natural woodland in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. He was born and raised just a couple of kilometres away, in an informal settlement on the forest's borders. Yet it's only in the past few years that he's learned to love and appreciate the tranquil beauty on his doorstep.
Karura Forest is a place to enjoy, to be enjoyed by many. People can jog, people can walk, people can go and visit the caves. They can also go and see the 15-feet waterfall. And it's all thanks to Wangari Maathai.
Wangari Maathai was a force to be reckoned with. She was recognised across the globe as a warrior for the environment and a campaigner for human rights.
Environment, democracy and peace together.
Widely known just by her first name, Wangari, she was responsible for planting more than 30 million trees across Africa in her lifetime. But she did much more than simply plant trees. As well as for the environment, she stood up for women, for the rural poor, for justice and democracy. And in so doing, she put her life on the line.
Whoever met her was first of all struck by her as a person, but then as they learned about her and what she did, became inspired to do more themselves. And I think that is the greatest legacy that you can leave, in a sense, as an individual who interacts with others and has proven that sometimes one person standing up for a cause is the beginning of many others joining it.
Thank you that you give us children the chance to share our thoughts with you. It's not
in Germany, schoolboy Felix Finkbeiner heard about Wangari in 2007 and started Plant for the Planet, a movement that now has children across the world following her example.
I was in 4th grade, 9-year-old, and in our class we had the unit about the climate crisis. And during this unit I learned a lot about Wangari Maathai, the Peace Nobel Prize laureate from Kenya, and she planted 30 million trees in 30 years with many, many other women there. And in this unit, I developed the idea that we could plant 1 million trees in each country of the world.
In Japan, Wangari is feted as a celebrity and holds one of the country's highest honours, the Grand Cordon of the Order of the Rising Sun. She's particularly loved for giving a new lease of life to the Japanese word motanai, which, roughly translated, means it's a shame to waste it. It's now the name of a campaign that promotes waste reduction, reuse and recycling.
We take, we use, we throw away. We take, we use, we throw away. We take, we use, we throw away. We take, we use, we throw away.
Back in Kenya, Wangari's vision also continues, thanks to committed young environmentalists like these.
Saying that people need to be taught how they can live or coexist together with trees.
They're the first to be awarded PhD scholarships from the Wangari Maathai Institute for Peace and Environmental Studies.
It's a beautiful forest.
Their research has brought them here, to the Eastern Mau Forest in Kenya's Rift Valley.
Just listen. There's a sound, isn't it? Professor Wangari Maathai used to call this a living forest and the other one a dead forest. And the reason being that here you are dealing with so many living organisms.
Human settlement and illegal logging have caused the ancient woodland to shrink dramatically. It was an issue close to Wangari's heart.
What we are doing is carrying on the legacy that she began. Here is our own small step towards achieving that dream, towards realizing and protecting the environment, and maybe in our own small way become a small Wangari Maathai.
Professor Wangari Maathai inspired me with her determination, with her focus and love for nature. She really demonstrated that women can also climb high in the academic ladder.
Work on a purpose-built home for the Institute is soon to start on this 50-acre plot donated by Nairobi University. The design of the building and landscape will encompass everything Wangari stood for.
We hope to reduce our carbon footprint as low as possible. In addition to that, there is a place we are calling the democratic space. And that democratic space is a place where anybody can come and say and discuss and create discourse with students on any issue in a manner that reminds us of the work of Wangari Maathai, because she really never kept quiet. Whenever something went wrong, she was there announcing it in the strongest terms and being able to smile about it. That's what I remember Wangari for.
Wangari's own roots were in Kenya's Central Highlands. Her childhood home was a farmstead on the foothills of Mount Kenya.
We are 6. We are 3 brothers and 3 sisters. And she's the 3rd. We lived a normal Kikuyu lifestyle. That is looking after sheep and goats. One thing I remember about her is that she was very hardworking. If you were sent to fetch water or fetch firewood, she would come back quickly.
At a Catholic boarding school not far from her home, Wangari met her lifelong friend, Miriam Chege.
She seemed to understand the subjects better than anybody else. And the most difficult subjects like biology, like maths and algebra, she was very, very good. And she would help us, me included.
In 1960, Wangari and Miriam were chosen to be part of Airlift Africa, a scheme launched by Kenyan politician Tom Mboya and funded by the then US President John F. Kennedy to enable bright young Kenyans to study in America.
The original airlifts for that group of students was about much more than just an education. For most of them, they had never left the country. Someone like Wangari Maathai had never left her village. I believe for Wangari, the experience must have given her a broader outlook, a sense of knowing where she ended up, a sense of a bigger role that she had to play beyond her immediate community, beyond her country even.
We had not lived with Europeans, call them white people, in our schools here during our time. So it was quite an experience, and we dealt with many questions, like, do you live on trees? But we learned to be patient and to answer those questions, because in the process we considered ourselves ambassadors.
My life changed, my experience changed, my thinking changed. When I left, I was a very different person. I had gone through the experience of the civil rights movement, which was led by Martin Luther King. And that experience really gave me my perception and my understanding and my challenge for human rights issues.
During Wangari's time in America, Kenya gained independence from Britain, and she returned in 1966 to a self-governing nation. Within a few years, she was married to Mwangi Maathai, who'd also been a student in America, and they soon had 3 children. By now, Wangari was studying and teaching at the University of Nairobi. Her closest friend there was Professor Vertestein Mbaya.
We were coming from different directions in the corridor, and she greeted me. She wanted to know, who are you? Because apparently I'm the first female she had seen in those corridors. And I introduced myself, and we shared, as we did for many years thereafter, a joke, and we became good friends. As a person who was born in the United States, of course, I had a different socialization, I would call it, in terms of culture. And she also had a socialization that I felt was interesting.
In 1971, Wangari became the first woman from East or Central Africa to gain a PhD.
Wow.
And 5 years later, the first to chair a department at the university. The 1970s saw her becoming increasingly active and outspoken on issues affecting the environment and human rights. She founded the Green Belt movement and called on people to support it by planting trees.
Nobody would see anything wrong with you planting a simple tree. So planting that tree symbolizes nurturing democracy, nurturing good governance. Planting that tree symbolizes protection and conservation of forests. Planting that tree also symbolizes the better management of our natural resources as a country. So it was a simple act with profound meaning.
Yet at the very time the movement was gaining in strength, Wangari's marriage was falling apart.
Wangari herself was such an independent-minded person that I think that her independent mind perhaps may have made the two of them come to the conclusion that this may not work out too well, the way couples do. When the divorce was finalized, of course, it is true, certain responsibilities you're now released from. So she had an opening to focus on issues that mattered to her.
Overseas, Wangari's activism won praise. But in Kenya, it put her on a collision course with the then president, Daniel Arap Moi. At one stage, he called her a madwoman and a threat to Kenyan security. In 1989, on learning Moi planned to build a $200 million business complex in Nairobi's green centrepiece, Uhuru Park, Wangari protested.
The danger became particularly great when she opposed the development. It had great economic repercussions. When she had the courage to make it an international issue, which she did when she wrote to Prince Charles that something was being done in Kenya that would not be done in England at Hyde Park. Now, when she did that, to many she had crossed over the line.
Her protest gained the attention of the world's media. International investors pulled out and plans for the complex were dropped.
When that happened, it did seem they wanted to punish her. And that punishment could have been very severe and very dangerous. And that's when she did what we call went underground. That's when she went into hiding. Well, I just thought that they could physically abuse her and they might eliminate her. They might eliminate her, yes. I thought that.
In 1992, Uhuru Park was again the focus for protests when Wangari and other women staged a hunger strike to push for the release of the country's political prisoners.
Police came in and they tore down the tent and they started beating us. They didn't care whether you are an old woman of 80 years, whether you are Professor Wangari Maathai. The severity of the beating of the batons, the tear gas for us to go out was something I never expected a government to do on its people. In the process of the first round of beatings, Wangari got very severely injured. It's like they had targeted her. So she got hit on the head, she got hit on her back, everywhere.
Uhuru Park, that was the big one. She had fought other battles before that, but that was the big one that really brought her out to the limelight. I think at that time I was a little young and I never really understood what the repercussions could have been because she stepped out so boldly and was raising her voice really loud at a time when Kenya was really sunken into a dictatorial government. And I think it was partly my naivety that kept me thinking that, oh, you know, it wasn't a big deal, it wasn't too bad, everything was going to be all right. And then later on, as I realized the dangers that were involved, I think my faith helped me a lot.
In 1998, Karura Forest came under threat when President Moi was discovered to be giving parts of it away to his political allies for development. Wangari challenged him once more. Meanwhile, in an attempt to stop bulldozers destroying any more of their forest, local people took matters into their own hands.
This probably shows how angry people can get when they realize that neither the government nor the Minister for Environment is really doing enough to protect the few remaining forests from very greedy and selfish grabbers who are subdividing the forest and developing it into private houses.
Sometimes when we would sit at home and watch TV and watch the news and see her fighting for the forest and see her in her full gear and as an, pushing for some cause and as an activist, you'd look at her at home and wonder, is this the same person? Because she's so gentle and calm, like a dove at home, and then she gets out there and the passion for whatever issue it is of the day that she's concerned about, you know, she really fights hard.
The tranquility of Karura Forest today is a world away from those scenes of anger and destruction.
This area, we call it Wangari Maathai Corner, because this is where she made her first protest in Karura Forest to stop the grabbers from constructing houses in this forest. And this place, we have preserved 5 hectares, of which Kenya Forest Service and Friends of Karura Forest have already planted 5,500 tree seedlings.
In elections in Kenya in December 2002, Daniel Arap Moi was defeated and Wangari was elected to parliament as part of a new coalition government. Then, 2 years later,
the Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2004 to Wangari Maathai for her contribution to sustainable development, democracy and peace.
in Kenya, the environmental warrior was now the toast of the town. And the celebrations continued all the way to Norway.
It's an exciting time for me, and I hope for all Kenyans. It is something that has happened to us the first time. And it's such a wonderful honor that has been given to us. So we have every reason to stay smiling and be happy and live up to it.
So welcome to Norway.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What are your expectations for the next few days?
Well, I'm sure it will be wonderful. That I'm sure of. It already started wonderfully last night. The flight was great. So I'm really looking forward. I know it's going to be an extraordinary experience.
Wangari Maathai was the first African woman and the first environmentalist to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. To her countless supporters, she seemed indomitable. And when she was diagnosed as having cancer in 2010, few could believe it. Even Wangari herself found it hard to take in.
She certainly believed she had many more years to live. And she was an optimist that with modern medical attention, it would prolong her life. And consequently, she was not thinking that she was in any danger of death anytime soon.
I didn't know she was sick, and I didn't know she was that sick. I had heard that she had been in hospital in the US, but because I was seeing her and she was actively engaged in that meeting, I didn't realize how sick she was, because that was like almost 3 months before she passed away. But at that time, in all her sickness, she was telling that group, whatever you need me to do, just let me, use me. Whatever you need me to do, let me know.
This photograph was taken 3 weeks before she died. And you can see her smile. Because I think Wangari had the best smile. And she maintained it to the last minute.
Wangari Maathai's death at the age of 71 brought tributes from around the world. But perhaps the biggest tribute of all is that people all over the globe have been inspired by her vision.
Single-handedly, Wangari saved this Uhuru Park. Single-handedly. She understood the issues, she understood the environmental impact, she understood the impact for ordinary Kenyans who use this park long before any of us did. And single-handedly, she fought the state. The reason why I love coming back here now, it's really symbolic of her strength. A woman's strength, a one-woman strength. Seeing people walking freely here, seeing people sleeping here, and seeing trees growing, and half of these trees, of course, Wangari has been part of planting, is really a sign of Wangari's legend and life and what she wanted to leave behind.
After Wangari rescued Karura Forest from developers, local people got together to make it pristine and safe.
I love Karura Forest because it's only 2 minutes away from the city, and nowhere else in the world you find a place like this where you get butterflies, everything, all the nature, the waterfalls and stuff within the city. It's 100% kudos to Wangari Maathai. I wish she lived to see this.
It's my first time in Karura Forest. It's beautiful, it's amazing. I can't believe I've been missing all of this. It's very refreshing just to be able to come to a place that is so tranquil. I don't think there's anybody that we can thank more than Wangari Maathai. She's done a tremendous job. Thanks.
Welcome.
Most of the jobs in the forest have gone to people living in nearby informal settlements, many of whom hadn't been able to find work for years. Local communities are encouraged to set up income-generating projects such as beekeeping and education programs for schools. Team-building activities and community events are a regular feature.
1, 2, 3, go.
Today, we have a Karura forest that is not only, in a sense, still there as a forest, it is also now a place where people are returning to. It has been fenced. It is part of a community forestry managed system together with the Kenyan Forest Service that ensures that this place becomes one of the lungs of the city, one of the public spaces for people to go to enjoy and to learn about nature, and above all for young people to also have access to nature.
The caves in this forest,
and I think Karura Forest may be the living green legacy of Wangari that will live alongside the many others, including the Wangari Maathai Institute. And I think it is a tribute to the people of Kenya, and particularly those who stepped alongside her to make this forest a legacy for generations to come in this city.
The late Professor Wangari Maathai is the one who fought for this forest, and if it was not her effort, we could not be enjoying the fresh air we are enjoying this day.
Wangari, a legend. This gives you a general idea of the kind of genius and inspiration that exists among our people. People have told you that we were poor, we were ignorant, we were not able to do for ourselves. Nigeria has the richest economy in Africa, not because white missionaries came in and did it for them, they did it for themselves. South Africa did not go under as an economy when blacks took over. And blacks took over their motherland, their homeland, and worked in partnership with some of the whites that are there. That's a fact. These people are brilliant. Ms. Johnson, Ellen Johnson, who is the president of Liberia, has done a tremendous job and also received a Nobel Award, Peace Prize, along with Wangari, who's also received that prize. And they don't just give them to anybody. They give them to people who have made some tremendous accomplishments. And both of these women were well educated and well prepared, but also had to face a number of obstacles in order to make it happen. Africa is on the rise, folks, in spite of some of the injustices that continue to exist. There are colonial powers that still try to keep and put their finger in the dam, will loan some of these countries money with terms that would mean there will be decades trying to pay back that money. That happens. And they have to be careful. They have to be careful. And there is corruption, the same as there's corruption here in the United States and England and everywhere else in the world. There's corruption in Africa too. And so they have to be careful of that to make sure that these people who have worked so hard for their independence, worked so hard to build their economy, and you see these some beautiful places, you need to go and visit. You need to connect with these folks. I certainly plan to. I am blessed to have a son-in-law who is from the continent of Africa and many, many friends who are from the continent of Africa who have educated me and taught me that of the brilliance and a high level of culture, and independence also that exists for people in Africa. Kenya, I was really interested in the fact that Wangari had friends among the Maboyas. Tom Maboya was once prime minister for the country of Kenya. And he had a brother that attended Swarthmore College. And I think what I understand is that he also worked for the UN and represented Kenya, but he was a very, very close friend of mine. And he used to go to church with me in Chester, Pennsylvania. Chester is only 5 miles from Swarthmore College. Many of the Swarthmore College students were heavily involved in the civil rights struggle in Chester, because right there in Chester, we dealt with a lot of segregation and a lot of racism and a lot of things that were just totally negative. So when Gary was close to them boys, and that's good to know and good to hear. They're on the rise, folks. Africa is a place you need to take a look at. And some of us who would like to go back to the motherland need to go and check it out. That may be the thing to do. The thing to do may be to stay in Harrisburg or wherever you want to be. But know that you should love yourself. And if you love yourself, you love the motherland, you love your own home. I think it's a great thing that we have the ability to be able to show the facts and to show how things really, really are. We have 17104, the Voice, the Thomases, who put this station on the air and give us the ability to be able to express ourselves. And I want to say that we're getting down to the end of the show. And I just want to say something again about African Paradise. Check us out. We're on Facebook. Check out our website, African Paradise. We have some wonderful, wonderful African clothing. We have oils. We have 5-foot-tall giraffes, 5-foot-tall cats. We have elephants, giraffes, all kinds of things that will remind you of a paradise, African paradise, as a matter of fact. And we're located at 35 South 8th Street in the downtown city of Lebanon, Pennsylvania. We're in the Lebanon Farmers Market. You ought to come and visit the Lebanon Farmers Market. It's a wonderful place. It has all kinds of food. It's a diverse place. They have produce. They have poultry products, chili dog, Philadelphia cheese steaks, and all that kind of thing. Come and have a good time. It also has a bar and grill on the 3rd floor, a wonderful place for entertainment, a wonderful place to take your mother out for dinner and help to celebrate Mother's Day. And I'm going to say to all you mothers out there, God bless you and keep you. We appreciate you, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be in this world. And if it wasn't for your agapic love, we would not have survived in this world. I miss my mother, but more of all, I appreciate the things that she taught me. And she taught me how to be a human being and how to be a man and how to love. So we are getting that down to the end. I want to thank you again for tuning in to the Richard James Show. We'll see you again next week. We came on a little earlier today, but normally we're from 1:30 to 2:30. But check us out, please. And God bless you. This is Richard James, your neighbor and your friend, sending you much love and happiness. Take care.
Thank you again for tuning in to the Richard James Show. Our African and our African American programs are set up to educate you on what's going on in this world. We thank you for taking out the time to listen. Let us hear from you sometime also. So this is your neighbor and your friend signing off. Until I see you again next week and hear from you again next week. So long. God bless.